Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be praying for a patch. I'd like everyone to get on their knees and say a prayer that one day Ice Frog will actually give us a patch so I can stop making tier lists about the current patch. Either way, because a patch is nowhere in sight, let's get into the current tier list. And yeah, I'm going to be doing this pretty brief until we get towards the top tier heroes, because I think a lot of the bottom tier heroes in most games are simply not worth picking. Now, I will admit, every hero in Dota has its place. The lowest win rate hero is about a 45% win rate. That is not 20%. That's not a 20% win rate, all right? So when people think, I can't play Terrorblade because Speed said this hero's horrible, you can play Terrorblade. You just need to put in a lot of effort, learn heroes ins and outs, and understand why Terrorblade's good. Because it's actually not a bad hero. Its win rate is just horrendous because people don't know how to use it, right? And so that is actually the first hero on the F tier. Terrorblade is actually picked a decent amount in the pro scene. However, I think in the average pub, this hero is just not very good. It dies in the laning stage, it gets ganked really easily, and it requires a pretty profound understanding of the hero to make it work. You have to really know the advantage of using meta in the laning stage, how to maintain lane equilibrium with the meta and really dominate the early levels with it. And then just in team fights, being able to use meta at the right time is a key thing. Sunder is a hard spell to use, but most importantly, Terrorblade's illusions are just one of the most difficult abilities to properly use in the game. Securing the right farm and the right map control with Terrorblade is difficult. The hero itself dies very easily, so you have to be particular with where you send the illusions. If you don't do that, you feed. So Terrorblade, because of the fact that its numbers are just not that great right now, you know, I don't think this hero really is that bad. It's just too hard to play, and so it's F tier. Then we have Phantom Assassin. I don't care what I really don't care what you say. Okay, this hero's win rate's not even that bad. It's like 47, which is like kind of bad, but it's not that bad. But you can't convince me otherwise. All right, I hate this hero. Yes, it has a very specific mid-game timing, or if it hits its early BKB deso, it can go crazy. For the most part, it just feeds. It's not a great laner. It doesn't farm fast, okay? It doesn't take stacks. It doesn't fight that well early. This hero doesn't do anything early on. It has some okay matchups in the early game. I'm such a PA hater. I hate this hero. Then we have Templar Assassin. Too difficult, too many number nerfs. That's what it comes down to. It's kind of the same problem as TB. It's a very fragile hero. It requires a lot of mechanical skill. It's just too hard. It's not worth playing TA unless you're going to grind it for the next 1,000,000 matches. And then even then, it's just at the moment, it's not even worth the time. Like, I just don't think this hero, it's too hard. It requires too profound of an understanding of the game. Like, you gotta know when to rosh, hit your timings, you gotta push your timings. It's not like the best late game scaling carry, so it's just too hard to really make it work.
Also, I want to tell you guys that if you've been struggling with solo queue and you're looking to get to the next rank, I'm going to be able to help you. Like, literally with the Game Leap website, I'm going to give you guys guides that are going to make it unbelievably clear on what you need to do. So if you've been stuck in the solo queue grind, you don't know what to do, and you want to become absolutely broken, but like actually you want to become much better at Dota, and you want to take it more seriously, the Game Leap website is going to help you do that. So click the link down below. I'm going to help you get to the next rank, and I'll see you there.
Now let's get into the C tier. First off, we have Morphling. I think this hero's numbers are a little bit too nerfed. I do think the Axe build is okay. They didn't, unfortunately, nerf the Axe build, and so that was a bit of a hurt to Morphling, but I think, honestly, I hate putting heroes in low tier because of mechanical skill, and I don't like repeating the same points in videos, because obviously I'm not trying to bore you guys to death, but at the end of the day, it's like one of the hardest heroes in the game, and the numbers just don't pay off. And it's the same thing for Monkey King in C tier. Hard hero to play. Mechanically in team fights, you gotta know when to place the ulti. Boundless Strike is a low duration stun, so you really gotta make sure you're getting value out of it, whether or not it's within auto attacks or to set up for the ulti or just to keep them in the ulti. You gotta know what you're doing. It gets ganked easily. It requires a really strong understanding of the laning stage really to make this hero work. It's a laning stage dominator. It doesn't farm fast. It's not the best team fighter in the game. And so you gotta truly know what you're doing. And I don't think, as I said again, the numbers pay off. Same thing for Void. Faceless Void is a cool hero. It's one of the best late game heroes in Dota. And if it gets there, it's oppressive, right? Its win rate, as I said, is not 0. It's like 46, 47. It's not unplayable. It's just whether or not you can get to the point of the game where Void's a good hero. If you can't, which often is the case, it just doesn't feel very strong. You end up chronoing, killing no one, and you feel pretty bad. However, a couple of number changes and Void can be the best hero in the game. This is often what happens to Faceless Void. It's a very delicate hero because Chrono is an insane ability. Then we have Bristleback, just a numbers problem. Its Ags build is its best build, and it got nerfed too hard. I really think that's what it comes down to. Then we have Alchemist. Alchemist is one of my favorite heroes in Dota. I love playing it, it's just such a cool concept to me, and it's honestly fun. Maybe you hate me for that. I understand. Okay, you can dislike the video. I get it. I understand. But for Alchemist, my big thing with the hero is it just falls off in the late game. It's not the best laner, and it really just falls off. At some point in the game, yes, you can distribute Ags to kind of scale, but for the most part, you lose the one-on-one carry matchup to most of the meta carries. You simply don't scale as well. You have to really know how to push your timings in the mid game, and if you miss those timings, it's just gonna be hard to carry the game at some point. Then we have Weaver. I actually really feel like Weaver's kind of an underrated hero. I think building this hero is kind of odd, but I really think the Gleipnir Weaver build has a lot of potential. The tempo of this hero is pretty awesome, but I think it once again kind of comes down to the same issue as Al. It's not the best scaling hero, it's more of a mid-game hero. So if its numbers aren't good enough, like its just overall stats and numbers on Sakuchi aren't good enough to justify it in the lane and in the mid game, it often just doesn't do well enough in these 30 to 40 minute games. Okay, 30 is a bit early, it's actually fine at 30. Then yes, there are some matches where in the late game, Weaver is against no stuns and can pop off. And in a situation like that, of course, you can snatch up the Weaver and feel pretty good. Maybe you're laning against Beastmaster, you shut that guy down in lane, then play high tempo, and Weaver can feel like a really dominant hero. I actually just watched a game of Pakaz playing it and it looks fantastic, but as I said, it's just a fragile hero in terms of its timings, and that's a risky thing in Dota. Then we have Phantom Lancer. I'm putting Phantom Lancer in C. I considered putting it in B. It has a 49% win rate, which is like really okay. I guess it scales. I think it mostly comes down to scaling. And really, I say this a lot in these tier list videos, but the laning stage does not get pressured enough. Like, until you hit really a pretty high rank, people don't win the lane hard enough on average to really justify picking lane counters or like heroes that don't scale. And PL is a hero that doesn't lane well, like much at all. It has almost no good matchups and gets dominated by like quite a few heroes. But if you don't get dominated and you get to the late game, it's like, all right, well, you're Phantom Lancer. Then we have Medusa. Hero got nerfed a lot, number changes, just not the best hyper carrier right now. It has some good matchups. Yes, it's a good Scotty carrier. I think that's about all it's good for though. Like a Scotty carrier against like DP Lesh, it's pretty nice for that. Then we have Gyrocopter, which has a 50% win rate. So why is it in C? I think Gyro is a better support than it is a core, and that's basically my take. All right, then we're into the B tier. We have Juggernaut. Yeah, I don't think in the pro scene this hero is very good. It definitely has some really bad laning matchups, but as I talked about, I just don't want to structure these videos, these tier list videos. I want to structure them around you guys, like what's going to help you guys, and I just don't think Juggernaut is a hero you cannot pick. It's a good laner, it honestly scales well into the late game, and if people don't buy the right items, it's a good hero. And I really think it comes down to that. I think Juggernaut does a lot of damage, but if people buy Ghost Scepter and Yule Scepter or like a Lotus, it's almost impossible to play Jug in the mid to late game. It just is. Like, yes, you can buy a Nullifier, but that's not like a natural item on Jug in most games. It doesn't feel that good until later on. This hero is just very, very kiteable. It's very kiteable. It doesn't farm that fast. Its laning stage is exploitable by certain matchups, but you can see these are all kind of niche things that require like pretty strong understanding to beat the hero. So yeah, Jug ends up in a lot of the pups I watch and a lot of the coaching students I watch having pretty decent timings. At level 20 with its shard, it does a ton of damage on a low cooldown with the spin and feels pretty decent. Then we have Luna. It's just a 50% win rate carry that hits creeps. I wouldn't pick it over any of the S tier heroes almost ever, like, but it has its place, you know what I mean? It's pretty good with like Visage. It's more of a complementary carry nowadays, I feel like. It's this aura damage. For instance, Luna Meepo is actually fire. Which sounds really stupid when I say it. And it's so greedy because like these heroes both need like a heinous amount of space, but it's pretty cool. You give the aura to all the Meepos. All right, then we have Bloodseeker, matchup dependent, very, very matchup dependent, but when it has those good matchups, damn does this hero snowball. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's a great late pick carry when you're against heroes like Pangolier in lane, or these tanky heroes that simply cannot lane into you, right? If you can get a good lane matchup, snowball off the lane, you can definitely dominate. You can also counter pick a lot of carries with the Rupture. You can counter the Weavers, the Solarks, and you can go from there. Then we have Lifestealer, just a pretty solid hero right now. I think Armlet's in a good place and its numbers got buffed. I believe Feast got buffed recently. And Open Wounds, I believe, is one of the best shards in the game. I think Lifestealer would actually have a higher win rate if people bought the shard earlier. It's actually insane. It makes you do percentage-based damage on every single auto attack, and I think it does it on every spell as well. And it makes people heal from auto attacks and spells. So if you have a Leshrac on your team and you open wound someone and he starts nuking them, he heals from it. It's like, and by the way, every time someone who's open wounds takes 500 damage, it spreads the open wounds to the person next to them. It's like this I honestly think Lifestealer could be a support and it's not horrendous if its laning stage was like slightly better. It actually wouldn't be that bad, kind of. Don't actually do Lifestealer support. You get the point. Then we have Sniper. This hero's win rate's lower, way lower than I thought it would be. I actually really like Sniper right now. And frankly, I don't even know what to say about it. I honestly was tempted to put it higher, but the win rate just doesn't show in the average pub, which is surprising because Sniper for like most of its history has been a good pub win rate hero. So I honestly don't know what it comes down to. Maybe people are just buying the wrong items, because this Hurricane Pike build you see in the pro scene looks fantastic to me. So I'm actually not going to comment too much on Sniper. You guys could say stuff in the comment section down below if you've been struggling against, or maybe you're just dominating the hero, and let me know your opinion. Then we have Nature's Prophet. Now, I watched BSJ's video briefly, and I wanted to see his takes, and he actually put Furion in S tier, and I understand his perspective, and I think when it comes to the pro scene, which I think is more so what he was basing it off of, I mean, I could be wrong, like, you know what I mean? I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but I think in the pro scene, Furion is A to S tier, high A tier to S tier. It's a flexible laner, it farms the map like crazy, it's very good in 4 Protect 1 right now. I think Gleipnir, as he said, is a great item, and I fully agree with that. And I really believe that the tempo NP puts in a coordinated environment is insanely good. Like, insanely good. However, you put him in a pub setting where you can teleport anywhere and grief your game literally whenever you want, and you have, Nature's Prophet, and you feed, and you buy maybe the wrong items, and you don't buy a BKB because you're stupid. It's just, honestly, I think in pub, like, I didn't want to put this hero in C or F because I just don't think, if you play it correct, it's even remotely close to that, but it's just not a good pub hero for the average player, and that's all I have to say. Then we have Chaos Knight. It's a stunner, good laner with a good stun, and it blows people up, and that's what it comes down to. 49% win rate hero, not bad, not great, it's just okay. It's just alright. Same thing with Sven, that's the next hero B. It's just, these heroes are fine, like, they're explosive heroes, easy to play, they get the job done, you know what I mean? They take space quite well. They're just well-rounded heroes. I think it's unlikely Sven is ever like a bottom tier hero or CK. Like, I don't know. I just feel like these heroes in pubs explode people, and it makes it very easy to teamfight. Also, a big thing I noticed is that as I watch like 1 to 4 KMMR games, it tends to be the case where it's easy to jump the supports. Support players have such bad positioning, and so you can often explode them. And so heroes like Sven and CK get a lot of value out of this. Then in the A tier, we have Animage. Situationally, Animage is just good right now, and I think his numbers are not bad. This hero is actually a pretty good laner. Like, every time I watch your average match, Animage actually does well in his lane. And this isn't always the case in high MMR, I think, because synergy is the name of the game against AM. AM is really good in one-on-ones, so if you don't punish him together, then this hero is actually very dominant in the lane. And that's often what happens in these games. The enemy offlaner will lose their mana, AM will free farm. People know to focus on last hits with AM, which is really key for having a good game as a carry, is, you know, just snowballing off CS. And then, yeah, there's just a ton of free farm around the map, and AM is one of the best heroes in the game at taking it. Now, personally, I feel like this hero is pretty punishable, as I said, at a very high level, but just doesn't get punished. People don't set up the right gank squad, so it rarely dies in side lanes. People don't punish it in lane properly. It requires synergy to punish, in my opinion. It's very good in the one-on-one, as I said, and it scales obviously pretty well. It's Animage, you know what I mean? You hit this 30-35 minute timing, you're going to be more farmed than almost everyone else, and I think that's usually what it comes down to. Then we have Slark, who I was tempted to put way higher. I actually think Slark, if the player is mechanically talented, is one of the best heroes in the game. With a good last pick Slark, I think it's one of the most oppressive heroes in Dota. Its vision game, Dispel, the Ag stealing essence now, like the fact that when you pounce people, you steal essence, makes this hero snowball so fast. And then its shard is just one of the best in the game. Slark, I would say top 3 shard, maybe the best shard in the game. If it was a low cooldown, it would be the best shard of the game, in my opinion. It's just broken. It's your ult, but you put it on the ground and it's AoE. It's just crazy stuff, crazy stuff. But a good Slark game, right counter picks, busted hero. Hard to shut down, broken shard, which you can get from second Roche. Then like, oh my, if you get second Roche shard on Slark, which typically you shouldn't because you should buy it earlier, but if you do, because it just happens to play out that way, I mean, you hit this timing where you're unstoppable. Aegis Ags Shard Slark is one of the most broken timings in Dota right now, especially during the nighttime. It's a menace to play against, especially if he's with the damn Ricky. I've had my teammates have been talking about this, and it was brought to my attention by another player, and yeah, it just makes sense to me. Yeah, every time I hate playing against Slark. A good Slark owns the game. Then we have Troll. Troll gets a lot of hate. I don't know why, because every time I play against Troll, it's like a good laner, and then ever since the ulti pierce BKB, I have not had the experience where Troll is like this very kiteable hero. People keep saying like this Troll is a very kiteable hero. Only if you have like the right heroes. Maybe if you have Sprout or like Winter's Curse. Sorry, not Winter's Curse. Cold Embrace from Wyvern. Like, yeah, if you have the right spells, it's a kiteable hero. And sometimes the ulti goes haywire and can be kited by things like Ghost Scepter. I understand. But Troll can buy Ags and purge a lot of its current counters like Ghost, Glimmer. I think it even can purge Yules. Don't quote me on that. It can purge 4 staffs if you time the thing right. So it's like every time I play against Troll, the hero is like scary, man. Yes, if it messes up the ulti usage with the BKB, it does nothing. And that's frankly the name of the game for Troll. It comes down to good ulti usage. You have to buy an early BKB. If you do that and you get off a good BKB ult, you solo kill most cores. And then the fight snowballs from there. Like really, I think the Battle Fury BKB Ags build, then a Basher, is very powerful. It's hard to kite. Right, it's very hard to kite because he dispels himself, he dispels the opponents, and he bursts most heroes. Then we have Naga Siren. For the longest time, this hero's win rate was actually one of the highest in Dota, and I would have put it as an S tier hero, but I think the hero's been figured out quite a bit. People definitely understand it, but it's definitely one of the top tier carries. If you learn how to snowball, this hero has actually very few bad lane matchups. It's a good laner, it snowballs fast, and it hits a crazy mid-game timing. It's one of those heroes where when you hit your Orchid Manta hard timing, you just kind of run in and no one can deal with you. And that's usually what happens with Naga. Then we have Arc Warden. It's one of the highest win rate carries. It scales well into the late game, and I think that's mostly what it comes down to, but you gotta know how to play it. Then we have Wraith King. It's a blink stun, good laner. You know, I really think it comes down to that. You just like bait good fights with Wraith King. I really believe that's the only reason this hero has a high win rate, because it doesn't scale that well. But the farming on the hero is like really straightforward because you just spawn skeletons. So you spawn skeletons, they farm for you. Like you can be really bad at the game, but it's fine because the skeletons will carry you. You know what I mean? They don't get distracted on really shitty team fights. You do. Actually, sometimes they do get distracted on really shitty team fights. But yeah, it's just kind of a good initiator. I think that's mostly what it comes down to. It goes in for the team. People know to go in. It doesn't get bursted, you know, and then you counter initiate. And I think people overcommit in fights. Like the way to counter Wraith King and the reason why he's never seen in the pro scene is like you kind of just poke this guy's ult because he's a really kiteable hero, and then you kite out, but people don't do the last step, which is beat the ult and then kite out. They just kite in and then die. All right, then we have Shadow Fiend, well-rounded hero. I know it's mostly known as a mid laner, but it's just a good laner and it scales well. It right clicks really hard, it farms fast, it's hard to counter. It's just a good, it's a well-rounded range carry. I don't know what else to say. I think it pairs really well with like the freaking Treant right now as well. I hate that lane. SF Treant. Then we have Pudge. Honestly, I think Pudge is just very good still. Like, I don't know what else to say. The Vanguard Ags build just does a ton. This hero in the right laning matchups like Pudge CM also dominates a ton of lanes. Like lanes even you would expect it to lose, it can win. Like I've seen CM Pudge beat freaking Legion Commander, which was very confusing, but it happened. The guy got Frostbite hooked and you can purge it, but it costs a lot of mana to do that on Legion. So she just ran out of mana and then got pressured out. Pretty insane stuff. But honestly, yeah, I just think the Vanguard Ags build is good. I don't know what else too much to say. It's actually one of the most surprisingly good scaling heroes because typically you would expect a magic damage carry to not scale, but it comes down to the talents. The fact that its shard reduces the cooldown of Dismember, which is nice late game, and then it has Dismember duration at 20 by 0.8 seconds, and then 1.8 times damage on the Dismember and heal. Late game makes this hero heal like crazy and solo kill actually a lot of heroes. Solo kills any support and can take most cores BKBs completely out of the game. And by the way, it's like a hard nuke through BKB. It does like 1,000 damage if you have the right items in the late game. Sometimes more. It's some crazy stuff. Then we have Ursa. I think Battle Fury Ursa is good. Its win rate's not that good. I really think Ursa is a top tier carry right now in the right matchups if you buy a Battle Fury. Buy a Ring of Health, play for a later timing. You don't have to dominate the lane, dominate the mid to late game, get an Aegis, then run from there. I really think people just play the hero wrong. They play it way too fighting oriented. They go too crazy in the lane. If you slow the pace down and go this Battle Fury build, it plays really high tempo, it takes Roshan, and it just feels very good against a lot of the meta heroes as well. And some of the meta heroes which we'll be getting into, I actually think Ursa's a good response, which is a big reason why I put him at high A tier. And finally, the last hero for a high A tier is another hard response to some of the top meta heroes, and that is Marcy. I think Battle Fury Marcy as a carry is one of the most underexplored things in the game right now. With pretty minimal farm, it does some of the highest damage in the game, and it one-on-ones most ranged heroes really well. And a lot of these ranged heroes are in the meta. As I said, the SF, and then for the S tier, which we'll get into now, the Lina and the Drow. Marcy is pretty damn good against both of these heroes. She wins the one-on-one, locks them down with Basher, and that's really valuable. It's just nice to have a carry that can actually get on top of the S tier ranged heroes, which are definitely Lina and Drow. Well, you might not see Drow a ton in the pro scene. I mean, even though she's picked consistently in the pro scene, don't get me wrong. She's not like picked constantly, but she has a 54% win rate in hero in pubs. And I think it mostly comes down to the fact that this hero just pumps damage. If you don't shut it down in the laning stage, if you don't go on it in the laning stage, it's going to feed on you. Like, frost arrows just do damage. They don't pull creep aggro, allowing you to keep creep at equilibrium without pushing in the wave, and you punish your offlaner. From there, with just the Dragonlance, you can show up to team fights. And when you have a hero that can win early fights, like, the only real downside to Drow is if she gets like ran at in the lane and killed, it can be hard to recover. But with Dragonlance, you can be one of the most active carries in the game. This hero can be played in a multitude of ways. It can rush Pike. With the Pike rush, it can get aggressive early. It can show up to these early team fights, win the early team fights for its team, and make moves. And I've seen multiple pro players do this. It looks incredible. So it can be a high tempo hero, or it can slow down the pace of the game, go something like D-Land, Shard, Yasha, and really just play to hit nasty late game timings. And this hero's talents are just too damn good. Multi-shot, cooldown at 15, damage at 20, and waves at 25 make Drow one of the most dominant heroes in the game. She just gets too many talents for the same ability, making it one of the most devastating spells in the game. Then we have Spectre. Blademail Spectre is just good right now. The Mango build with Blademail Axe Manta scales well, it's good in lane, it's hard to shut down, and it wins late game pubs. It's as simple as that. People don't buy the right items to live against it. Like every time I watch a Spectre game, I've coached multiple games where I've seen a Spectre, both the Spectre player and against the Spectre. People just don't buy the Ghost. And you need the Ghost as a support to live. You need the Glimmer, you need the Ghost, you need the Force. These items aren't picked up, specifically the Ghost, and people are just feeding the Spectre late game with no response. And then finally, I have to put this hero in S. Its win rate is not that good. You just have to spend a little bit of time to learn it. It's Lina. Its win rate really isn't that good. I just can't not put it here. I just can't not. Anytime I watch this hero, it's so busted. You can't lane against it. The problem is it requires good mechanical skill in the lane and kind of in the game as well. It requires somewhat good positioning. You gotta let your teammates go in. You gotta know when to Gleipnir. You gotta know when to BKB. So it is a little difficult, I will admit. But if you just win the lane and then flash farm for 25 minutes, you will have 4 items and dominate every fight. You will have easily Boots of Travel, Falcon Blade, Gleipnir, BKB, and you will be the most dominant, highest damage hero every single game, and you are almost countered by no heroes in the lane. There are practically no winning lanes against Lina, depending on the support matchups. So thank you guys so much for watching this carry tier list. If you disagree with any of my picks and you think I'm a bad person because I put your favorite carry in the C or F tier, you can vent to me in the comments. I understand, I get it, but I'll see you in the next one. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!